With the WINN FM News, I am Kevin Brown. Our top stories. St. Kitts Nevis Prime Minister delivers New Year address urging continued focus on growth and sustainability. The Inland Revenue Department issue VAT reduction guidelines for the first half of 2025. 3 men still wanted by the Royal St. Christopher and Nevis Police Force, up to $25,000 for information on 2. Business community weighs in on state of emergency in Trinidad and Tobago, challenging year for law enforcement in the region. Internationally, 10 dead after vehicle drives into large crowd in New Orleans, authorities say. Now, the details. As the sun rises in 2025, Prime Minister the Honourable Dr. Terence Drew delivered an inspiring New Year's address urging unity, resilience and progress among the citizens and residents of the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. In his message, he emphasized the importance of reflecting on the past year's challenges while looking ahead to a promising future.
We bid farewell to 2024. I invite you to reflect on how far we have come and to embrace with open hearts the promise of the year ahead, a year we have boldly declared the year of recovery. It is a year that will build on our collective resilience, a year when the seeds we have planted will bear fruit, and a year when progress will power us toward a stronger and brighter St. Kitts and Nevis.
The Prime Minister highlighted the trials faced in 2024, including rising costs and economic uncertainty, but was confident that government initiatives played a crucial role in steering the nation toward recovery.
Your government invested a historic $320 million to support essential subsidies and social programs. This was not just an investment in numbers, but an investment in you, our people. We subsidized fuel to keep costs down at the pump and in homes. We protected electricity prices, saving households and businesses from crushing energy burdens. We ensured that families could afford cooking gas, and we expanded programs like LIFT, ensuring that no child went hungry and no family was left behind. All these are part of this government's effort to address the rising threats of the cost of living and the international inflation crisis that are affecting all of us. Recognizing the value of work and fairness, we delivered a national minimum wage increase to EC $430 per week, the highest in our Federation's history, restoring dignity and improving livelihoods. At the same time, initiatives like the building materials reset and the VAT relief holiday gave families the power to invest in their homes, while our budget boost wallet will allow for greater financial stability and support. These were not isolated acts.
Looking to the future, Dr. Drew laid out a vision encapsulated by the 2025 agenda, which is focused on economic diversification and sustainability.
We are investing in renewable energy, agriculture, tourism, and the creative economy. These initiatives will provide opportunities for entrepreneurs, farmers, artisans, and young people to harness their talents and achieve financial independence. Our youth, the heartbeat of our Federation, programs like Aspire and Elevate are creating opportunities for you to save, to learn, and to earn. Education, financial literacy, and skills training are your tools to succeed. I implore you, reject the shadow of crime and violence. Embrace the boundless opportunities that lie before you. You're our future leaders, innovators, and builders. To our hard-working civil servants, farmers, teachers, healthcare workers, and business owners, you are the backbone of this nation. We will continue to invest in you, ensuring fair wages, stable policies, and an economy where everyone can thrive. To our seniors and most vulnerable, your government sees you. We will continue to prioritize your well-being and dignity. As we forge ahead, the principles of our sustainable island state agenda remain our guiding light. Food security, renewable energy, economic diversification, sustainable industries, creative arts, social protection, and health resilience. This is not just a vision, It is our national blueprint for progress. My fellow citizens and residents, recovery is not the work of the government alone. It is the work of all of us. This year, let us move forward together.
By fostering a culture of education, financial literacy, and skill development, he encouraged the youth to take advantage of opportunities, steering clear of crime and violence.
Together, we will recover from past iniquities. Together, we will thrive. Together, we will build a stronger, more resilient St. Kitts and Nevis, a nation that stands tall and proud among the global community. In this year, let hope lead us. Let progress inspire us. Let recovery empower us. May 2025 be a year of blessings, success, and new opportunities for all. God bless you, and God bless St. Kitts and Nevis.
The St. Kitts and Nevis Inland Revenue Department has issued necessary clarification regarding the newly implemented VAT added tax (VAT) reduction from 17% to 13% set to take effect from January 1st, 2025. Prime Minister the Honourable Dr. Terence Drew, during his recent 2025 budget address, announced the initiative as a commitment to bolster the economic stability and quality of life for the citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis. The reduction in VAT applies to the supply and sales of goods and services throughout the Federation that have previously been taxed at the standard rate. The 6-month VAT relief holiday aims to alleviate financial burdens on families and enterprises, promoting a more vibrant economic environment. Consumers and businesses must note that transactions occurring before the effective date of January 1st, 2025 will still adhere to the previous VAT rate of 17%. The Inland Revenue Department has further clarified the criteria for determining applicable VAT rates, which include the date of delivery or completion of services, the date an invoice is issued, and the date payment is received for supplies. Additionally, the 10% reduced VAT rate for commercial rentals, accommodation services, and restaurant supplies will remain unchanged, as stipulated in Section 27(1)(b) of the VAT Act Cap 1847. To safeguard consumers, the government intends to implement strict monitoring measures to deter price gouging and unjust practices, reinforced by the recently enacted Consumer Protection Act. Stakeholders and citizens are encouraged to reach out for any inquiries regarding the new VAT rate, as the government seeks to facilitate a seamless transition into a prosperous new year. The Royal St. Christopher and Nevis Police Force is intensifying its efforts to locate 3 wanted men for various criminal activities. Among these is Desi Williams, whose arrest warrant has been issued due to several offenses of false pretense. Additionally, police are seeking information on 2 other individuals, Philip Jones and Kyron Phillip, who are wanted in separate murder investigations. Desi Williams, a 35-year-old male, is noted to have a dark complexion, standing at 5 feet 7 inches tall, with brown eyes and black hair. His last known address was in the Farms Project area of Sandy Point. Authorities have encouraged anyone with information regarding Williams's whereabouts to contact the Criminal Investigations Department at 662-7062 or 465-2241, extension 4231 or 4338. The police emphasize the importance of public cooperation to ensure justice is served. Williams has been on the police radar since July 2024 and is accused of multiple fraud-related offenses. The Royal St. Christopher and Nevis Police Force is underlining the urgency of this matter and reminds the public that information leading to his capture is vital. Every tip can significantly affect the investigation's outcome, and the police are grateful for any assistance the community provides. In addition to Williams, Philip Jones, 41, is wanted for questioning concerning a murder investigation. Jones is described as being 6 feet tall with black hair and brown eyes. Jones's last known address is Carty's Pasture Tabernacle. Police have warned that Jones may be armed and dangerous, urging the public not to approach him. The Royal St. Christopher and Nevis Police Force has highlighted the legal implications of harboring wanted individuals, stressing that aiding in their evasion from justice can lead to prosecution for those who assist. Similarly, Kyron Phillip, aged 29, is wanted in connection with another murder investigation. Philip is 6 feet 5 inches tall with a dark complexion, black hair, and brown eyes. Phillips's last known address was at the John England Project in St. Peter's, St. Kitts. Jones and Phillip have been wanted since August 2024, and the police are actively seeking public assistance in locating them. The Royal St. Christopher and Nevis Police Force has established a direct line for tips regarding these individuals. The Violent Crimes Unit can be reached at 662-3468, while the Crime Stoppers Hotline is also open at 707 for those wishing to remain anonymous. The police strongly encourage any public members who know Jones or Phillip to come forward. A cash reward of up to EC $25,000 is available for information leading to their arrest and successful prosecution. The commitment of the Royal St. Christopher and Nevis Police Force to collaborate with external partners on these cases is unwavering as they seek to bring those responsible for serious crimes to justice. Law enforcement aims to create a safer environment for all St. Kitts and Nevis citizens by leveraging community involvement. The police urge everyone to report any suspicious or sightings of these wanted individuals and to contribute to the ongoing efforts against crime in the Federation. In regional news, business community weighs in on state of emergency in Trinidad and Tobago. CNC3 has that report.
With the declaration of a state of emergency to deal with gang-related killings, Confederation of Regional Business Chambers Chairman Vivek Charan wants law enforcement to rid the streets of illegal guns.
In particular, those same machine guns, after a batch of citizens have been slain by machine gun fire, and we would hope that these machine guns and automatic guns can be found and come off the streets, given the additional powers that the police and the army have working together.
President of the Greater Tunapuna Chamber, Ramon Guerrero, told Business Watch that the SOE implementation is stage 1 of trying to get the murder rate under control.
We see phase 2, of course, which is dialogue and the enhanced use of technology to be able to enhance and improve detection, improve overall maintain a lawful country, and be able to use the data and intelligence to be able to prosecute criminals involved in these activities.
Acting Attorney General Stuart Young yesterday said there would be no curfew and government had taken careful steps to ensure the economy continues to function as normal while the SOE is in effect. Finance Minister Colm Imbert has heaped praises on Urban Development Corporation of Trinidad and Tobago's transformational impact on the country. The minister reflected upon the numerous projects UDCOT had successfully completed over its 30 years of operations.
I asked Mr. Garcia to do something for me, and I feel this list is incomplete. I said to him, give me a list of all UDCOT's projects that cost more than $25 million. I got a list of 81 projects.
The finance minister was speaking at UDCOT's event entitled Visionary Blueprint, celebrating a 30-year evolution at the National Academy for the Performing Arts in Port of Spain on Sunday. Andrea Perez-Sobas, CNC3 Business Watch.
Even before the regulations were released, we were told that the SOE will give law enforcement additional powers, such as the ability to search premises and individuals without warrants, members of the Defense Force being given powers of arrest, the suspension of bail, and that even people in the company of anyone with a prohibited item can be arrested as well. But there are other interesting sections in these regulations. For example, Section 11 allows for a gun amnesty. And that means if a legal order is proclaimed, then someone can return a firearm or ammunition to law enforcement without facing prosecution. Section 4C gives the police commissioner the power to implement a curfew and prohibit any person from being outdoors during specified hours. And there's a section that empowers the National Security Minister to order that someone be arrested that he believes to be a threat to national security. Section 12 tells us there'll be a no-nonsense approach to sedition. It's a warning that any threats made to public safety or even having signs that encourage that conduct will not be tolerated. Now, under these SOE regulations, a person can be detained for up to 2 days, and that can be extended to 7 days with the authority of a magistrate or someone assigned to the rank of assistant superintendent or higher in the TTPS. Now, there is a provision for people who believe they were detained unlawfully. A tribunal would be set up to review their case. The 3-member team shall be appointed by the Chief Justice.
Challenging year for law enforcement in the region. Grenada Broadcasting Network has that story.
Meanwhile, while our neighbor Trinidad and Tobago is presently under a state of emergency, the Royal Grenada Police Force is reporting that 2024 was a challenging year for law enforcement as they grappled with a notable rise in serious crimes. Without providing much of the statistics, Acting Police Commissioner Randy Connaught noted that 2024 began with a rise in reports of serious crimes, which was initially driven by locals and later exacerbated by the emergence of transnational actors. Despite these hurdles, Acting Commissioner Connaught commended the dedication of the RGPF in combating crime and ensuring public safety.
Our detection rate for serious crime ranks among the best in the region. In 2024, we successfully removed 57 illegal firearms and over 1,500 rounds of ammunition from the streets. Additionally, we intercepted drugs with an estimated street value exceeding $9 million, a staggering 300% compared to last year. These accomplishments reflect our unwavering commitment to safeguarding our communities.
The police commissioner, acting, further urged Grenadians to remain vigilant and proactive in the fight against crime, emphasizing that combating crime requires a collective effort.
Across the region, transnational crime, drug trafficking and gun violence, particularly among youth, persists at alarming rates. As Tony Blair, former UK Prime Minister, once said, to tackle crime effectively, you must go hard on crime, but also go hard on the causes of crime. While the police are mandated with enforcing the law, addressing the root causes of crime requires deliberate and collective action from all sectors of society.
As 2024 draws to a close, Acting Commissioner Connaught said the RGPF remains steadfast in its commitment to ensuring the safety and security of Grenada's citizens. The Acting Commissioner highlighted the efforts being made, noting that these investments in infrastructure and technology are pivotal to improving the efficiency and effectiveness of their policing efforts.
Special recognition is given to the procurement and refurbishment of the former floor building on the Caranage, which will soon house the police headquarters. This spacious and modern facility is expected to enhance the working environment and foster greater productivity among our officers. Additionally, we commend the acquisition of the Advanced Fingerprint Identification System, AFIS. The long-awaited reintroduction of this technology has the potential to revolutionize processes by significantly reducing time required for fingerprint compilation and comparison, ultimately saving hundreds of man-hours.
His message is clear. Crime prevention is a shared responsibility. Christina John, GBN News.
We now bring you these international reports.
City authorities in New Orleans say that 10 people have been killed and 30 others have been injured after a vehicle hit a crowd in New Orleans. It happened in the early hours of New Year's Day on Bourbon Street in the French quarter of the city. We know that after the incident, multiple police and ambulances were dispatched to the scene. Social media footage, which appears to have been filmed today, also suggests that numerous shots were fired by the driver of the vehicle and that they show multiple people on the ground with injuries, as well as others running away from the area. So let me get you a sense where in the United States this happened. It happened in Louisiana, in the city of New Orleans, in the French Quarter, around Bourbon Street, which is famous around the world for its bars and clubs. The location itself has been completely sealed off and police are saying not to head to that area. This is the statement that we got from the city authorities. It said that there was a mass casualty event on Canal and Bourbon Street. The 8th District is currently working a mass casualty incident involving a vehicle that drove into a large crowd on Canal and Bourbon Street. There are 30 injured patients that have been transported by New Orleans emergency services and 10 fatalities. Public safety partners are responding on the scene. Updates will follow as they are received. So that the statement confirming that 10 people had died and that 30 have been injured. Let's go to CBS News correspondent Jared Hill, who is in New York for us. So Jared, for viewers who are just joining us, just recap on what we know has happened in New Orleans.
Right, so from what we know at this point, about 3 or 4 hours ago, there was reportedly this vehicle, what has been described as a truck of some kind, that plowed through a crowd of people in New Orleans in the French Quarter District. As you were mentioning, this is a big area where there are bars, there are nightclubs, there are people milling about. This was New Year's Eve, or on the back end of New Year's Eve, early New Year's Day as this was happening. There are still some questions around all of this. Exactly why did this happen? What was the potential motive, if there was a motive to begin with? We are also hearing from some of our CBS reporters who are on the ground there that there was reportedly an exchange of gunfire between someone in that vehicle and law enforcement who were outside of the vehicle. This is according to what they say witnesses were telling them. We're still waiting on an official press conference of some kind from New Orleans Police Department and from New Orleans City officials. That's expected at any moment at this point. But this is something that is really taking the city and the country by surprise this morning.
Jared, just give us a sense of that area of New Orleans.
Right, so this is, again, in the French Quarter District, which is highly pedestrian. Cars typically aren't driving through this area, especially not at this time of day and in this way. This is a part of New Orleans where, again, people go to celebrate, whether it's celebrating big events like this or they're kind of just walking around milling about, visiting the city or being in the city and going to some of the shops and the bars and the restaurants, especially at this hour. And so presumably, again, while this was pretty early in the day, this is a part of town, a part of New Orleans, where you do have a lot of people who are on foot, who are milling about in the streets. And so this is, again, as we're hearing, 30 injuries with this, 10 fatalities. At least those numbers could change over time as we get more information from law enforcement. But that part right there is still incredibly shocking.
Yeah, absolutely. It is very, very shocking. I'm also seeing that there was a big college American football game, the Sugar Bowl, supposedly due to take place in New Orleans. So there would have been a lot of people in New Orleans for that, as well as the New Year celebrations.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, this is a time where people flock to New Orleans, not just for New Year's, but also for the Sugar Bowl. And so, again, a lot of people in the city at this point looking for a good time. We know that New Orleans, much as every city around the world really, had stepped up its police enforcement and as well as its security because of the New Year's celebration, because of these big events that were happening. So again, a lot of questions this morning as to exactly what happened and, if anything, what went wrong along the way.
Yeah, so just to recap, the authorities we're expecting to hear from them. They did come out quite quickly with this number of people who had died.
Yeah, that's right. So they came up pretty quickly with this number, at least I guess within the first couple of hours of this story, with this number of 10 fatalities and 30 injured. Will that potentially change? We're not sure yet. We do know that from some of our reporters who were on the ground there on the scene, they said that witnesses reported seeing multiple people lying immobile on the streets, that the coroner had been called to the area as well, which again would have likely been an indication that there were some fatalities here. I think with stories like this and situations like this, when it comes to hard and fast numbers, it's always important to stress that could change, that could evolve, whether there are certain people who are double counted or the status of a person may change. And so the numbers that we have at this point are 10 fatalities and at least 30 injured.
And I suppose it will be hard for the emergency services because it sounds like the injuries could have been caused both by the car driving into the crowd, but also it may be that some people have got gunshot injuries.
Exactly. And so those are all of the things that we're waiting to get some more clarity on, is exactly who was injured by what, who was impacted by what, and what precisely transpired here. Again, because there are the reports of this sort of a gunfight between law enforcement and an individual, as well as this vehicle that rammed through the crowd there in New Orleans. And so a lot of questions that we are waiting to get a bit more clarity on. Again, this is something that happened just a couple of hours ago. And so as law enforcement and people on the scene collect more information, they will hopefully provide it to us so that we can inform folks about what went on here. But this is also happening, you know, in the shadow a couple of months of the Christmas market attack that happened in Germany just a couple of months ago. And so, again, all of these things are points and moments where law enforcement and people in these revelatory situations were watching out for and had it top of mind.
Yeah, and Jared, I appreciate we both don't know exact details at the moment, but I assume something like this, the White House may later come out with a statement when you've had so many people lose their life around New Year's Eve and New Year's Day.
Yeah, that is something that likely would happen. That's something that does happen typically in situations like this, whether this was intentional or whatever the cause may be. Likely we would hear something from the White House. They probably also are waiting on, much as we see in a lot of these situations, for more information to come in from law enforcement on exactly what they know at this point with what happened. Another big question that we have here is the status of the driver themselves, and you know what might have happened along the way, and if there's any information that they've been able to glean from whether it was an altercation with the driver or from what might be in a vehicle or anything like that. So a lot of questions that we're still waiting for answers on.
Yeah, that is interesting because the police, the authority statement talks about the number of people, the 10 who've lost their lives and the 30 who were injured, but we have no word on suspect or anything, and there's not been, like sometimes you go that there is someone still on the run or hasn't been found, but we've had none of that this time, have we?
Yeah, that's true. So at this point, we don't have any sort of concrete information on the status of the driver or the person that might be involved in this, and so person or people that might be involved in this. And so that's, again, something that we're hoping to get more clarity on from law enforcement when they do provide an update, which, again, hopefully is going to be happening relatively soon this morning. We do know that they have said that they are going to be providing some sort of update fairly soon, and so we'll just have to wait at this point to see what happens there.
Well, amid the celebrations, there is concern about what the new year holds in store, with conflicts raging in the Middle East, Ukraine, Sudan, and the Democratic Republic of Congo. In his New Year address, the Ukrainian leader, Volodymyr Zelensky, said his country will do all it can to end the war with Moscow in 2025 and halt what he called Russian aggression. Standing in front of the iconic Mother Ukraine monument in Kyiv, he also said that Ukraine would need to fight next year to bolster its position both militarily and ahead of any talks to end Russia's 3-year invasion.
May 2025 become our year, the year of Ukraine. We know peace will not be gifted to us, but we will do everything to stop Russia and end the war. This is what each of us dreams of. Behind each of us stands Mother Ukraine. She deserves to live in peace. I wish this for all of us.
President Zelensky, well, years of gas supplies from Russia to Europe sent via Ukraine have come to an end, marking an end of an era in the European Union. The route has been in place for more than 40 years, but Ukraine's President Zelensky refused to allow further transits, which he said were fueling the Russian war machine. The EU has had a year to prepare for the change, and the European Commission says the impact will be limited. Well, let's get more on this with our Central Europe correspondent, Nick Thorpe. So, Nick, just how big a deal is this?
Well, obviously, any discussion of gas, any cutting of gas supplies, as you can see on a cold winter's day like this, is very emotionally important. It's also strategically important, financially important. In practical terms, it's the end of a 5-year contract between Naftogaz of Ukraine, Gazprom of Russia. That pipeline, about 3 hours ago, ceased to receive gas. That was passing 40 million cubic meters of gas a day through to Slovakia initially, and then on to countries like Austria, Hungary and Italy. The European Union says it has plenty of other suppliers, notably the United States, which now supplies a great deal of gas to the EU, but also Norway, Qatar, other countries sending liquid gas to Europe. But strategically and symbolically, it's the end of an era, because for decades, as you said, actually since 1964, Russia has supplied Europe, initially Eastern Europe, but then Western Europe, with large amounts through many pipelines of cheap gas. Now there's only one left, supplying about 5% of Europe's needs. That's the Turkstream pipeline coming up through the Balkans.
And I assume the concern is that because they're now having to go to other suppliers, the cost will rise, because this has been cheap coming from Russia through Ukraine.
That's right. Obviously, the cheapest way to supply gas is through pipelines, rather than to compress it, to cool it to minus 16 degrees centigrade, to ship it across sea, and then to regasify it and put it into pipelines again, which is what's now happening. Europe depends for 80% of its gas supplies on imports from other places in the world, and so the price is up. I mean, 4 times Europeans pay 4 times more for its gas, for their gas, whether that's household or industrial gas, heating gas, than the United States. And of course, that affects European competitiveness as it tries to compete with China, with the United States and other countries.
South Korea stepped up its investigation into its deadliest ever air disaster on Wednesday. The Transport Ministry reported that investigators have extracted data from Jeju Air Flight 7C2216's cockpit voice recorder and are converting it to an audio file. It's a crucial step for understanding the moments leading up to a crash that left 179 people dead. The plane's black box will meanwhile be handed over to the U.S. National Transportation Safety Board for further analysis. Investigators are exploring potential causes such as bird strikes, landing gear failures, or issues with control systems. They will also examine the pilot's apparent rush to land immediately after declaring an emergency. Air safety experts are also questioning if the airport embankment, designed to support navigation equipment, was positioned too close to the runway's end. A team of U.S. officials, including representatives from the NTSB, Federal Aviation Administration, and Boeing, arrived on Tuesday to conduct a visual investigation of the wreckage. Also on Wednesday, South Korea's acting president, Choi Sung-mok, said at an intra-agency meeting, authorities have formally identified all victims of the air crash. Choi also said funeral preparations are underway as grieving families prepare to bid farewell to their loved ones. South Korea has declared a national mourning period until this Saturday, January 4th.
Wall Street lost ground on Tuesday as investors closed the book on a remarkable year for equities. The U.S. stock market was powered to record highs by the twin engines of the artificial intelligence boom and the U.S. Federal Reserve's first interest rate cuts in 3.5 years. For the last trading session of 2024, the Dow Jones Industrial Average slipped marginally, while the S&P 500 dropped 0.4% and the Nasdaq fell 0.9. But for the entire year, the Dow advanced 13%, while the S&P jumped 23%, and the Nasdaq surged nearly 29%. It is the home of the Magnificent 7 mega-cap technology stocks, which had a solid 2024, led by AI chipmaker NVIDIA, which soared 170%. Other asset classes had a strong year too, including gold, which climbed 27% in price for its best annual performance since 2010. And Bitcoin more than doubled, topping $100,000 at one point. Bonrian Capital Management founder and CEO Shana Orzik-Sizzle explains why she thinks they had a strong 2024.
Bitcoin's really a risk asset. Actually, crypto in general is what I consider a risk asset. It's a benefactor of the desire to take on risk, as we have had the Fed cutting rates and favorable economic conditions. That's favorable for risk assets. Whereas gold is more of a inflation hedge, as we continue to see that inflation has come down, but not necessarily to the levels that the Fed is targeting. Gold plays an important role in hedging against inflation. So they're actually playing two different roles and complementary in many ways.
She remains positive on both assets for 2025, but favors Bitcoin. Sissel also sees stocks having another favorable year, but thinks double-digit gains will be hard to reach. Investors are eyeing stretched valuations and uncertainty surrounding tax and tariff policies from the incoming administration of President-elect Donald Trump. And financial markets are now pricing in about 50 basis points of additional interest rate cuts from the Federal Reserve in 2025.
You were listening to the WINN FM 98.9 newscast. Our top stories were: St. Kitts Nevis Prime Minister delivers New Year address urging continued focus on growth and sustainability. The Inland Revenue Department issue VAT reduction guidelines for the first half of 2025. 3 men still wanted by the Royal St. Christopher and Nevis Police Force, up to $25,000 for information on 2. Business community weighs in on state of emergency in Trinidad and Tobago, challenging year for law enforcement in the region. Internationally, 10 dead after vehicle drives into large crowd in New Orleans, authorities say. Thank you for listening.